Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight, August the 3rd, Friday, August the 3rd. Here in Kyiv. Curfew has just begun. And it is day 892 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. Hey, Robert Chapman. Hey, David Frazier, Hobo, Cheyenne, the peeps are coming in. Jean Agassi. No relation to the tennis player, I assume. Hey, Nicola. Hey, PT. PT, what are you doing here? I thought you were on vacation this week. Hey, Flippy, how's Croatia? Hey, Richard Hansen. Bobby. How's everybody doing tonight? If anybody sees Marilyn Fuller, M. Fuller, Marilyn is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank you, Marilyn. A true wisdom. The password is, just so you know, I'm not a crypto scammer. The password is Woodburner. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Vanetta. How you doing? Pedro the Amigo. Is all good? No, things are not all good, Pedro. Things are definitely not all good, brother. I mean, for me personally, things are okay. But not all is right with the world, man. Not all is right with the world. That is for sure. All right. So, howdy, peeps. As I said, this is the news for Friday, August the 2nd, day 892 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. And on the subject of things not being good. Now, look. The Russians are throwing everything they have at the Donetsk line. That seems to be what's going on. And there is this grinding attritional push that is making small gains at huge cost, but they are spending the money, boy. They really are. And the evacuations of Pokrovsk have begun reluctantly. So people there are coming to the realization that the Russians keep getting closer, and it's going to be a problem. It's not going to be long before they're in shelling range. And then the shelling will begin. So the Russians continue to push in that area. Multiple attacks were repelled in Pokrovsk direction, Toretsk. There are only 3,000 people left in Toretsk, and Toretsk is under threat. In northeast Kharkiv, a Russian drone hit a bus full of construction workers. 6 people were injured. 1 is in critical condition in the hospital at this time. Ukrainiform, Ukrainian-based media outlet, is reporting that internal rotation in Vovchansk. What's going on in Vovchansk, guys? The Russians put 50 to 75,000 troops up along the Ukrainian border in the north with the intention of opening 2 fronts, one in the Sumy direction, one in the Kharkiv direction. And this may have been a feint intended to pull troops away from Donetsk and up into the north. They said that it was to create a buffer zone, right? Now, that's nonsense, of course, for many, many reasons. But that was what they said. Now, the Kharkiv advance has failed, right? They've been ground to a halt. They've been pushed back. For a while there, they were doing great in Vovchansk, pushing the Russians out at about the pace of a city block a day. But then that stopped too. Everybody knows that at the aggregate plant, there's been 400 Russians. Well, they started with 400. How many are still alive? We don't know. At the aggregate plant, there's been 400 Russians trapped there, separated from their compatriots for over a month. How have they been surviving? Drones. Russian drones have been dropping food and water into those 400 guys that are trapped at the aggregate plant for the whole time that they've been there. Food, water, ammo, medicine, that kind of, right? Keeping them alive. It is unconfirmed at this time, but it appears that the Russians may have made a breakthrough and joined up with the aggregate plant and relieved that siege situation at the aggregate plant. Remember, they moved 50 to 75,000 troops into the north to open two fronts. They only ever opened one front, and that didn't go well for them. So now it appears that what they are doing is rotating the troops out of the front line in Volchansk and bringing the reserves in from what was supposed to be the Sumy front. Now, if that's true, and much of this is from secondary sources and is unconfirmed, but if that is true, then it could be that the Sumy advance will never materialize, which is good news. But it's going to mean that the Ukrainians are likely to lose some ground in Volchansk now over the next few weeks. We'll have a good idea as to whether or not this is what's going on in the next few days. Because if they're, or at least in the next week to 10 days, let's say, if they're bringing those guys down, if that's where they're getting the men from, because they're right there, right? They're not far away. It's not like you're bringing in the Africa Corps, which they have done, right? Some of the troops moving into this area are Africa Corps troops. And if they're bringing them down from Sumy, then they're going to be able to reinforce that front line in Volchansk in the near term. And then we're going to see whether or not they can push the Ukrainians back, because that's what they're going to try to do. And that's the thing, Pedro, right? Of course, the Ukrainians are going to trade that ground for lives. The Russians have no such compunctions. They will sacrifice as many lives as they have to take that next meter of ground. And that appears to be what's happening in Volchansk. And again, I think over the next week to 10 days, we'll get some clarity on that as we see what happens. Last night, there was a massive ATACMS strike on Crimea, Sevastopol, Semiraphor, and that area. The targets were apparently S-300, S-400 air defense systems. There are claims that an S-300 or S-400 was destroyed. It's not entirely clear whether or not elements of an S-500 might have been also targeted. That's unclear at this time. According to the Russians, all of the ATACMS were shot down and there was no damage. Although if you look at the firm's data, you can see the fires burning. So, maybe it's just a grass fire, right? The debris from the ATACMS lit some dry grass on fire. That's probably all it is, right? It's certainly not a $300 million air defense system up in smoke. Here's an update on that Mi-8 helicopter that may have been taken out by a drone. Now, this is the first time in history that I'm aware of, or that anybody online seems to be aware of a small, $1,000 drone taking out a manned aircraft and its crew. This is some real Terminator shit here. But it does appear that was the case. Now, further, it appears that helicopter was some 50 kilometers, just over 50 kilometers from the front line. Now, how you pilot an FPV drone, which depends on a radio signal back to the operator that works in near real time, so the operator can direct that drone. How you keep that signal for 50 kilometers is a good question. It's a good question to ask. And the Russians certainly ought to be asking that question, because apparently the Ukrainians can do it. Now, it's likely that there was another drone acting as a repeater station somewhere in there, maybe two drones acting as repeater stations, right? So the forward attack drone talks to the repeater talks to another repeater, the repeater talks to the operator, and back and forth. But somehow they did that. Now, this is true too. I didn't report this. I didn't talk about this at all. But there was just a situation, and I apologize that I can't recall where it was, but some Ukrainian FPV drones attacked some Russians, and the Russians fled into a pipe. Did you see this or any of this video? So they go underground, they go into this pipe. The drones follow them in and take them out. Now again, underground, FPV drones, right? An operator has to be able to see. It's a repeater. That's what it is. They used repeaters. Oh, you guys are a riot. You guys are a riot. So really interesting stuff, and great examples of the kind of technological breakthroughs that we're seeing in this war. Oh, you know what I just saw today again is another drone dogfight. Ukrainian drone taking out a Russian reconnaissance drone. So that's going on, maybe not on a daily basis, but it's going on a weekly basis these days. We're seeing video of it all the time. It's a whole nother world. So yesterday we saw the biggest prisoner swap between Russia and the United States since the Cold War, the United States and our allies. And all the prisoners were returned home. The Americans were met by the president and the vice president and their families on the tarmac at Dulles. Medvedev, the former Russian president, was not very subtle in threatening those people, saying that when they escaped Russia, they should change their names, put on disguises, go into witness protection, because the justice of the Russian people knows no borders. And given the fact that a Russian assassin who committed you can't say the M word on TikTok, right? But he gunned down a Chechen dissident in a park in Berlin in broad daylight, and now he is back home as a hero. I'll tell you, that's our Russia. Croatia wants to modernize its armed forces, and Ukraine may be the beneficiary of that modernization. The Croats want to get rid of all of the Russian and Yugoslavian-made armored vehicles. And apparently there's hundreds of these vehicles. Many of them must be salvageable. And God knows, as David Fraser will tell you, the need for vehicles in this country is huge. And so every armored vehicle that they can get is a good one. I'm not going to laugh out loud about this, but you should feel free to. You should feel. I had a good laugh about it earlier in the day. You can just imagine that, as you will. Russia claims that it destroyed 3 Patriot batteries yesterday. Now, look, I don't doubt that Russia believes that they destroyed 3 Patriots yesterday, right? I bet that those Patriots that they destroyed had to be blown up. I mean, or maybe they were made of plywood and foam. I don't know. But given that until recently there were only 3 Patriot batteries in the country, it seems incredibly unlikely that they managed to destroy 3 of them in one day. after having failed to do so for some 16 months. Yeesh. But it's all over the front page of TASS today. It's all over the front page of TASS. 3 Patriot batteries destroyed in Ukraine. That's the thing, Pedro. That's why I'm saying I'm not even going to suggest that the Russians know they're lying. I think they probably believe that they destroyed 3 Patriots. I just wonder how much it cost them to destroy those Patriots, right? Those plywood versions of the Patriots cost, I think, about $1,500 per vehicle. And I don't know about the blow-up ones. But suppose you sent a $1 million missile against it. This war is not at all cost effective for Russia. Seriously, Russia is a business that is about to go bankrupt. They are. We're going to see it in our lifetimes. You know, when it happened with the Soviet Union, it certainly caught me off guard. It may have caught you off guard too. This one is not going to catch us off guard. We're just waiting for it. Okay. In Kherson, just across the river from Kherson City, there is a textile factory that has been used to house Russian troops. It is currently on fire. It's not clear how it got on fire. Why, was it struck by drones? Was it struck by mortar fire? What was it? We don't know, but it is burning. The U.S. has announced a new $7.85 billion tranche of aid to bolster energy infrastructure in Ukraine, and God knows it cannot get here fast enough. As the Starks say, winter is coming. And how these folks are going to heat their homes and keep grandma from freezing in her bed is very unclear to me. And as a resident of this city, the answer to that question also has some personal implications. All right, so I don't know. I might be asking for a fundraiser for a gas heater, guys. All right. In Russia, the exemption for fathers with 3 or more children, exempting them from military service, has been reversed. So now you're living in a world, right, where the government says we have a demographic crisis. You have to have more kids. So you have more kids, and one of the benefits of having more kids is that you're exempt from mobilization so that you don't leave a bunch of orphans behind, right? And now that exemption is gone. The Russians really cannot get their shit together. There is no cohesiveness to these policies. It is insanity. Okay, according to Sir Richard Dearlove, Britain is in a state of gray warfare. This guy is a spokesperson for MI6. And he warned that misinformation spread by social media, likely by the Russians, was directly responsible for the agitation at the Southport protests. Directly responsible. And I saw a good analysis by Beau of the Fifth Column of the posts on social media that led to that unfortunate happening at Southport. And it's just riddled with red flags that should tell you this is not to be believed. But it was seen by 24 million people, and it was widely believed because it confirmed so many biases that these folks have on a daily basis. So anyway, Russian disinformation is real. It has real impacts in the real world. And we got to figure out what we're going to do about it, how we're going to educate ourselves so as not to be suckered by this bullshit? That is the question. Because our very civilization is dependent upon us being able to survive this threat. And it's a real threat. It's a real threat. Hey, Steve with a V. So, guys, that's it for me today. That's the top line. I want to thank M. Fuller, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. If you see Marilyn around, give her a big thank you. And I want to thank the moderator team, the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Cheyenne Vanetta PT, who is back early from vacation. John Williams, Jay, and Travis. I also want to thank Nightshade, who has the Peters Peeps group over on the Book of Faces, and Vanetta, who has the Dismantle Project 2025 group over on the Book of Faces. I also want to thank Lars, who has the Discord server and the Alexievich archive. So, hey, Jeff, how you doing, pal? So, guys, that's the top line news for the day. And it's Friday, so we won't just do Q&A. It'll be an Ask Me Anything kind of thing. I'm not doing Saturday nights anymore. It's too much. I'm taking weekends off from now on. Are the F-16s here? I don't know, F and hell. I mean, all of the officials say that they are. I haven't seen anything fly over Kyiv. So I don't know. I mean, the official word is yes, that the first batch has arrived, that it's likely 6 planes. We know that there are 6 pilots that have completed training and should be available. They were seen above Lviv, Flippy. Yes, they were. There was video one day that couldn't be geolocated, but then there was video the next day that could be. And they were very clearly over Lviv. When do you and Corey have the YouTube meet? We had it, Bobby. It was last night at 6 p.m. my time. The video of the interview is published on Corey's channel on the TubeUs. It was a good interview. It was a good conversation, I thought. I'm working on making it on time Monday to Friday. That's enough. Exactly, David. Is it true that Ukraine is thinking about giving up land for peace? Ukraine has always been thinking about giving up land for peace. However, a year ago, there were 10% of the Ukrainian population that said that they would go along with ceding land for peace. 10% a year ago. After yet another year of war, now rapidly approaching the 3-year anniversary of the full-scale invasion, that number is 3 in 10. So now 30%, 3 out of 10 Ukrainians would give up land for peace. And as this war grinds on, you can be sure that that number is only going to get bigger. And that's a real concern, because then you're in a Northern Ireland situation. You're in a North Korea situation. You're in an East and West Germany situation. It's probably the worst outcome that could happen here. Lviv is okay, sure. How am I holding up? I'm doing okay, Harley. Thanks for asking. Oh, you're going to Kamenetsky? Dude, that's where Otis Taylor is. The guy who grows those hot peppers I love. Anthony Tommy Tom says, if we let them give land away, Russia will stock up and take more and more. Look, Anthony, I don't disagree with you, but it's not a question of us letting them do anything. The Ukrainians are the ones in this situation. They're the ones that have to live with the decisions that they make. So All we can do is give them the tools so that they don't have to make that decision. I know you know. At best, giving land will only temporarily cease Russia. Exactly. I don't know about that, Anthony. Thanks, Trash Hunter. Thanks for all the likes, guys. As always, thanks for the gifts. Thanks for being here. I appreciate the conversation that we have each night. And it would be nice to see some sanitary zones between Ukraine and Russia and Poland and Russia and the Baltics and Russia. Yes, it would be nice. How you doing, Rational Squirrel? Pedro the Amigo says, we Finns feel Ukraine. We lost 10% of land and had to relocate 11% of the population. Hope the same don't happen. Now, look, you've already got nearly that percentage of the population as refugees in Europe, Pedro, right? 7 million Ukrainians out of 40 million. It's not 11%, but, right, it's a chunk. And then another 6 million displaced internally. It's an 18% of the country in the hands of the occupiers. So it's more than what Finland suffered already. Because these guys that have been out of the country for 2 years, what are the odds that they're coming back? What are the odds? Their kids go to school in the new place. They're getting married to people who live in that place. They're building lives in that place. Every month that goes by means fewer and fewer of them will think about coming home. David Fraser mentions Stephen Fry, who many people love. He's certainly a brilliant mind and a deeply committed anti-theist, so I respect him a lot for that. But I am not a fan of his comedy. I do not find him funny, not in the least, frankly. But he has done a new documentary on Kyiv called Club Kyiv, David, is it? And it's on YouTube. Rational Squirrel says that she met a Ukrainian lady that had lived in Norway for 2 years and she returned home. And that's great. And that is great. However, especially for those people that are out there with kids, kids need a stable home life. And so if everything got wrecked here and you've just spent 2 years putting your life back together, I'm telling you, there's a lot of those folks that are never coming home. Now, see, Rational Squirrel says there her daughter, who is 18 years old, chose to stay. So she didn't have another 10 years of raising children, right? She had a nearly adult child who's not coming home. And she's the one of childbearing age. Her kids are going to be German citizens or British citizens. Any news on the medical legalization in Ukraine? That issue has pretty much been settled, PT. The law was passed. September 16th, 2024 is the official date. Licenses for growing are being sold. I know 2 people that bought them and will be going into that business. So it's a real thing, and it's come to Ukraine. And my personal opinion on that is that given the kind of generational trauma that this population is suffering right now, the PTSD, not just of the frontline guys, which is going to be very real, but of all those people that have suffered under air raids, daily air raids for years now, that's going to be real too. And I think that there's some genuine medical benefit there. So, I mean, the reality, Breeze, is that there's a large Ukrainian diaspora already because this keeps happening here. So you have the diaspora from the Holodomor, the people that escaped in the 1930s. You have the diaspora from the Stalinist purges of the 1920s. You have the diaspora from World War II, from World War I and World War II. You have, I mean, the list goes on. There's large Ukrainian population. It's like the Irish. The Ukrainians are everywhere. Next Friday. Yeah, I should be around, Flippy. Hit me up, man. Let's do something. No, Anthony, you can't. Anthony says, we with our good life cannot imagine what Ukrainians are going through. And you can't. I mean, I thought I had an idea before I came here. I didn't. Now I have a totally different idea. And I'm still at arm's length from the conflict. I'm not personally invested here the way that somebody of Ukrainian descent is, somebody with family in the armed services is, somebody whose relatives or they themselves have lost everything in the Donbass or in Crimea and then the Donbass. I know a couple people who were in Crimea in 2014 when the full scale, or when Crimea was illegally annexed, and they fled from there and lost everything. Then one ended up in Bakhmut, one ended up in Kramatorsk, and they literally lost everything when their houses were bombed to shit again. So the story of people who have been displaced twice by the Russians in their lives, had to start from scratch over again twice. That's a long list, boy. And we can't, you can't really understand it. No. Yeah, no, it is horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, we've still got 20 minutes. Again, big thank you to Marilyn Fuller, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank you to everybody who sponsored the live this week. I really appreciate you. Has ground been broken for new military manufacturers? Well, Walter, given the fact that the country is under siege and missile bombardment and drone bombardment on a daily basis, they're not exactly doing ribbon-cutting ceremonies and golden shovel groundbreakings for the new manufacturing facilities. That is a matter of operational security, right? That's the kind of thing that they are keeping to themselves, and that is literally happening underground in many cases. so that the facilities won't be targeted. As I understand it, there are lots of mines and tunnels in this country. And so when you're looking for a secure location to build a defense plant, building it underground is a good idea if there's a place to do that. And so it appears that one of the solutions that Ukraine has come up with for the security of these defense manufacturing facilities is to house them in underground locations. So there's a process of mine conversion so that the plants can be located underground. I believe is one of the things that's happening. David Fraser is launching an appeal tomorrow for replacement of 2 FL Jeeps. I don't know what an FL Jeep is. What's an Frontline Jeeps, for 2 Frontline Jeeps. Russian. Zavasha Chesnorovia. Underground schools are being constructed inside of metro stations. So this is especially true out in Kyiv, where normal classrooms have just not been possible with the amount of missile attacks and shelling. And so they built classrooms down in the metro stations in Kyiv. And the kids go to school 300 meters under the ground, where they are safe. Hey, Cyber Doc, how you doing, pal? So no comedy this weekend. Hanging in there. Hell yeah. Questions, comments, anything at all? I am just as anxious as all of you to see an F-16 in the sky. I have yet to see that. I sure would like them to buzz the Capitol here one day. Maybe I could get some video. The comedy is writing itself in the IS. Oh, in the US. Oh. Wright letters. You have letters from the Wright brothers, Lars. Lars was showing me a letter he wrote to the Prime Minister. It's a good letter. You should send that to Vanetta. She should throw that up on the Google Doc share as another example of an appeal to authority in the current crisis. You know, gold-plated rocket car, I haven't even owned that house for over 2 years. I live in an apartment in Kyiv. Nobody is splitting cords of wood. We should write letters to Putin to surrender. Thank you, Anthony. Sure do appreciate it. Oh, it's on the Peeps page. Oh, cool. I don't have any pets here in Kyiv. Because, you know, we don't know what's going to happen here, right? The situation could change suddenly, and I might have to flee, in which case I'd be in a situation that so many Kyivans found themselves in at the time of the full-scale invasion. What do we do with the dog or the cat or the bird or whatever? And I don't want to be in a position where I have to abandon something I've come to love. You do have a new puppy. How's that new puppy? Have you started house training? New puppy piss and shit doesn't smell as bad as dog piss and shit. Have you noticed that? New puppy shit is not bad. It's, in my experience. I don't want to flee with pets. Ha 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 ha. Very punny, Maddie. Very punny. To the Putin it may concern. Cyberdoc, that's a riot. In light of the body doubles, that's really a riot, dude. No, I don't know. It was a long, troublesome week here. Thank you, Pursuit of Ventures. Pursuing adventures is what I do best. The weather was nicer this week, but you can see I'm sweating because today it started getting warm, and it looks like it's going back up into the plus 30s, maybe even 40 next week. For Americans, that's like 90s to 100. Guys, I really do appreciate our conversations about Ukraine every night. I hope that they are valuable in helping to keep Ukraine in people's minds at the forefront of their thoughts, especially this year as we go to the polls in what is an important election, clearly. Walter, I'm sorry, I don't personally follow the Olympics. People are following the Olympics. The Ukrainians so far have taken 2 medals, 1 bronze in saber fencing, and 1 in rifle, the 50-meter 3 position. The guy took the silver. Sergey was his name. Sergey, that was not terrible. I've forgotten his last name. 2 young women just got into the finals for something. Sorry. Thank you, Hardly. It must be damn hard in this heat on the front. I can't even imagine, Anthony. I mean, look at me. I'm just here at the table talking to you, and I'm sweating because it was 85 today, and it's still warm here in the apartment. Can you imagine if I had 70 pounds of body armor on? Whoa, I'd be dead. You saw a Russian doing a marathon with a drone on his tail. Jeez Louise. It could have been more if so many athletes didn't. Yeah. I'd imagine Harris winning the election would be seriously demoralizing to Putin. Hobo, I don't know if anything demoralizes that guy. I mean, he's already immoral. So demoral, I don't know. Saw a great vid of a Ukrainian athlete very eloquently but briefly discussing the emotional toll of the war. That's a real thing. The outcome of the U.S. election will have a huge effect on Ukraine. Could be good or bad. You are not wrong, Nightshade. Buy Me a Coffee funding platform banned Ukrainians today? What are you talking about, David? I find that hard to believe. Need to get a girlfriend to force you to watch the Olympics and Days of Our Lives. Dark Irish, are you ready for this? Days of Our Lives was my grandmother's favorite soap opera. So as a kid, I watched Days of Our Lives. There was a time I could have told you all about everything happening on Days of Our Lives. Ukraine got another medal today, bronze in boxing, according to Steve with a V. Thanks, Steve. Swing states are changing up to Kamala instead of Trump. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Hey, Sarah Bradshaw. Just announced minutes ago on Live Ukraine. Interesting. Let's hope so. That's what they said about Hillary in 2016. Remember that? Let's hope so. Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. Mm-hmm. Hey, Parda, how you doing? So, guys, again, if you see Marilyn Fuller around, M. Fuller, do thank her as a sponsor of the live. I want to thank Ballerina, who was the sponsor of last night's live, although I didn't see Ballerina tonight. And who else this week? It was Chris Carter. Fitz was last week. I'm forgetting somebody. I'm definitely forgetting somebody. Truthful. Truthful, too, was the sponsor of a live this week. How can you sponsor live? Cool. If you take a look, the PayPal is in the description. You just send $30 or more, and you are a live sponsor. When will the EU force the closing of the Hungarian border? Well, Maddie, that is under discussion right now. Not closing the border, but figuring out what the fuck to do about Hungary just letting Russians in, and then they're in the EU. That's no good. There's Ballerina. Hey, pal. How you doing? The black vote in Michigan for Trump is 0%. I saw that, effing hell. Also, if you join the Patreon at a certain level, you get a live or even 2 live sponsorships a month. If you look at the higher levels, those folks get live sponsorships too. So I want to thank all the sponsors and the Patreon people, because you guys know I couldn't do this without you guys. And then, of course, I want to thank the moderator team. Hey, Corey. Hey, everybody. Corey's here. That was a lot of fun yesterday, pal. Thanks. Sure appreciate it. And it felt like a good discussion. It felt like a good conversation. And I want to thank the moderator team, best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, John Williams, Jay, and Travis. Thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Thanks to Vanetta, who has the Dismantle Project 2025 group over on the Book of Faces. And big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server and the Alexievich archive. Also, I want to remind everybody that Vanetta has the Google Doc share where all of our letters to Congress, the Senate, and the White House can be found. And maybe soon some other examples of letters to politicians, like Lars's letter to the Prime Minister of Norway. Yulia says, thanks for the pepper info. Cool. I'm a big fan of that Chip Taylor boy. He's doing good stuff, growing good peppers, making hot stuff. All right. Well, guys, it's Friday. It's 5 to the top of the hour, but I'm tired. I want to go to bed. I got a long day tomorrow. So anything else? Any final thoughts? David, do you have anything funny to say? Give us a laugh before we close out. I'm all funnied out. I have nothing funny left to say. Night, Trash Hunter. Night, Rational Squirrel. Beowulf. Good night, Sarah. Good night, PT. Thank you, Vanetta. Thanks, Flippy. Hit me up. Your next Friday, you say? I'll see what's going on in town. You thought your math joke was good. No, I didn't get it, man. I remember reading it, and I didn't get it, so I just stopped at the part that made sense to me. I'm sorry. Thanks, Mad Mike. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for stopping by. Night, Hardly. Night, Jessica. Night, Flippy. Travel safe. Enjoy your last day in Croatia. Yeah, no, I get that, effing hell. I do. I see it. I get it. Comedy's hard, pal. Comedy's hard. Thanks, Jerry-O. Good night, pal. All right, kids. Thanks for being there for me. I appreciate it. Make it a great day.